cats. They're fickle and ornery creatures, but with the right motivation, a human can trick even the most stubborn of them on to a comfy blanket for chin scratches and headbutts. Today, I'm going to teach you how to play Calico, a game about cat manipulation and quilting. In Calico, players are competing to sew the most perfect quilt. This gorgeous game is illustrated by the fabulous Beth Sobel, and it's designed by the brilliant Russ, with development from the magnificent Flatout Games team. You might know them from a little game called Point Salad. Now, before we get started, I want to state clearly that this is a prototype and that it was made by hand, and the final product will be even nicer than the one you see here, which is pretty good. To set up the game, each player should have a player board and 6 designed gold tiles. Players will pick 3 of these golds and put them into the cat head spaces on their board. Each player is then given 2 random patch tiles to start the game. This will be your hand, and each turn you'll be playing these tiles from your hand onto the board. And then at the end of your turn, you'll draw back up. On their turn, each player is going to place a patch tile onto their quilt, and then check to see if they've qualified to sew on a button, or if they've attracted one of the many adorable cats in the game. And finally, they'll simply draft one of the 3 face-up patch tiles that are available. That's all there is to the game. There are 3 ways that you're going to score points in Calico. If the player has 3 of the same color quilt tiles connecting, then they get to sew a button onto their quilt. There are a total of 6 different colored buttons, and each one correlates to a color of patch tile. If a player manages to get all 6 buttons, then they'll be given the illustrious rainbow button. When adding these buttons onto the quilt, the players also get to factor in the border tiles on the quilt player board. This would count as a total of 3 tiles for yellow, for example. And the player would get to sew on a moon/banana button onto their quilt, whatever you'd like to call it. Now, as many of us know, and some of us don't, cats are colorblind, and they don't care at all what colorful nonsense you're sewing onto your quilt. All they care about are the patterns that they can see, and each cat has their own fickle preferences. Queenie over here wants to see at least 5 fern or 5 polka dot patterns touching. And if she does, she'll come lay down on your quilt and stay for a while. Each of these cats is worth a number of points at the end of the game, pictured on the top left corner of the corresponding cat scorecard. Let's go over the end of game scoring aspect. The design gold tiles. There are 6 unique gold tiles for each player, but players will only be selecting 3 of them to use for the game from a random draw of 4. Each of the design gold tiles has a specific requirement for the 6 hex spaces surrounding the gold tile. For example, this tile requires the players to have 6 unique colors or patterns in every single tile surrounding this objective. If the player achieves one of these, either the unique colors or the unique patterns, then they'll score 10 points for the total. However, if they have 6 unique tiles both in color and pattern, then they'll score 15 points for completing this design gold tile. The other design gold tiles are similar, but they're listed out using letters and represent different designs of quilt patterns or colors. As you can see here, this one wants the player to have 2 of one color or pattern and 2 of another, and then 1 of an entirely different, and finally a 4th color or pattern that's entirely different from the others. To score this for color, the player would, for example, have 2 dark blues, 2 yellows, a pink, and a light blue. They would then score 5 points. If they were then also able to complete the score with design patterns, then they'd score 8 total points. The other 4 tiles follow similar rules as seen here. The game ends after each player has sewn and completed their gorgeous and satisfying quilt, placing down the final piece of their puzzle. And there is no better feeling. What I haven't covered yet, though, is how scalable the game is. If you're playing with children, or those new to games, or you just want a relaxing color and pattern matching experience, you can flip over the design gold tiles and simply do your best to sew on buttons and attract cats. If you're playing with an old gaming expert like me, you can even flip over your cat scoring cards to reveal the more discerning of cats. To attract these lovelies, you'll have to place your patterns in a specific spatial arrangement so that they will be enticed to spend more time on your quilt. Calico is stunning and it's serene yet challenging. There's also a bonus solo mode for when your friends can't make it to game night. So if you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll be happy to answer them. Also, make sure to tell us in the comments what the name is of your favorite cat. Be bold, play games, be you. Happy gaming!